It's not in the face! Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Hey, Not the Face with your host, John Nash, and your producer, me, Steffi Haynes. And today we are going to talk more in depth about the Floyd Mayweather lawsuit now that we've actually seen it. We're going to talk about Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro's big interview. We are going to talk about Nikisa Badarian a little bit, and we are going to start the conversation with an ode to John, because one of his favorite movies ever, Taxi Driver, celebrated its 50th anniversary yesterday. And so he made this little innocuous post that I don't know if he realized I was going to see it, because he didn't actually tag me, but he mentioned me, saying that he was thinking about asking me if we could talk about Taxi Driver a little bit on our next episode. And I said, hey, I'm down. He said, I'm going to hold you to it. So I raced to rewatch it because it's been more than 2 decades since the last time I watched it. So I watched it again last night, and I have so many thoughts because the first time I watched it, I don't think I appreciated it for what it was. But before we get into everything that we have planned for you guys today, I would recommend that you pick up a paid subscription so that you get access to the whole show, because about half of it is behind a paywall because, we got to keep the lights on around here. Now, John, how the heck are you? I know you're super happy about Taxi Driver Convo, right?
Well, I'm somewhat surprised. First of all, I should note, I said that we should spend the whole show and not talk about anything but Taxi Driver. But we will briefly talk about Taxi Driver, apparently. And then there's, the Mayweather suit and other stuff coming down the pipe that we will have to discuss. But I would prefer if we spent the entire show talking about Taxi Driver.
Now, we did connect earlier today, and we talked at length about it. So we've already had a good portion of conversation, but we're going to rehash that with you guys. First and foremost, John, listen, my rewatch, I saw so many things in here that disturbed me, that didn't disturb me the first time, because I don't think I was fully paying attention to it when I was watching it. I remember that I was watching it with a group of people, and there was a lot of chit chat, a lot of beers being drank. I just don't think that I fully took it in. And the overwhelming sense that I got was discomfort. Like, I was squirming watching Travis Bickle's interaction with literally anyone he came in contact with. It was like he's the most socially awkward person on earth.
Yes, that's kind of the point of the movie. I mean, he is God's lonely man. He is not. There is something, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, it might take a while for a lot of viewers to get it, but there is something wrong with Travis Bickle in the movie. And that is a movie I think I saw for the first time with my brother when I was 12 or 13, probably too young to have watched it. But there's a lot of movies I saw when I was too young. Remember my dad dropping me off at the theater to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre around that age. He just the guy at the door stopped us and said, "You need permission from a parent." He stuck his head out of the truck and said, "Let him in." So I remember that. So we saw Taxi Driver at a very young age, and that's a movie that really stuck with me for various reasons. And as I got older, I appreciate, I think, more for the artistry. I think there's a lot of people, it's one of those bro movies. A lot of people label it as, and I think because a lot of men get obsessed with the masculinity, the violence, that portion of it, the loneliness for men. And I guess there's a male loneliness epidemic lately, so it kind of fits with that. But that's the part I think people focus on. But I think if you dig into it deeper, it's a much more thoughtful movie. In some ways, it's a movie that a lot of men, I think, should sit with a woman to watch. It's a movie I've seen once. I almost see that movie every once a year, and I see that I've seen it with a lot of women, and women bring a perspective, I think, to the film where a lot of men, I think, get enamored with kind of his violent attitude. It's almost fantasy projection because that's what the character's doing. But they're there to remind men, like, this is fucked up what he's doing. Mm-hmm. This guy's got issues. And so like a lot of Scorsese movies, I think a lot of Scorsese movies that are labeled bro movies, if the bros would go with a woman on that, I think they would realize, holy crap, I didn't realize how messed up these dudes in this movie are intentionally by the filmmaker, but a lot of guys are missing that.
Would you say that Travis Bickle might be the first incel?
He kind of is. I mean, he really labels. Well, I wouldn't say the first, because there's a movie that the taxi driver draws from called The Sniper that came out in 52. I think 52, maybe 51, 52. No, yeah, 52 or 53, around there. The Edward Dmytryk movie. I don't know, I'm sure some people have heard. It is really interesting to see. It's about a serial killer in the United States who's a sniper that has a insane hatred for women, so he shoots them randomly. And there's a shot in Taxi Driver that is literally taken from Sniper. And Sniper, so he is kind of the first guy that cannot handle women. There's been a few other, but the incel thing, Travis Bickle really sums up the incel, what we call incels later. You can tell he's a guy that, on appearances, like we've seen with some incels at shootings, he physically doesn't look like he's unattractive. Looks like someone that should be able to interact with people, seems normal on the surface, but he is incapable of making human connection and feels incredibly lonely for that. And that, that's a modern, we view it as a modern phenomenon, but that is something that I should say Paul Schrader specifically, he captured when he wrote the script back then. So yes, the incel is a very good observation.
The biggest tell of that is when he first walks in to talk to Betsy, and he's speaking to her, and he's telling her that why he felt like entitled to be able to walk in there and talk to her. And the way he phrases everything, like, I felt like it was my right to come in here and talk to you. Like, whoa, it was just supremely uncomfortable. Like, yeah, every little interaction he had with Betsy, I couldn't even believe she agreed to have coffee with him, to go out on a date with him. Like, that dude threw up every red flag known.
Well, I thought that worked pretty well, because what she is reading is a guy that's coming in confident and a little different. And she's not picking up the fact that he has no social skills at all, and he's projecting his internal fantasies on her. And I thought that worked. And the part that I think doesn't holds up the least in modern era of people that have seen it is when he takes her to the porn theater. But you got to remember, when this came out in 1976, the year, but they were shooting it earlier. There was a little gap in the 70s where pornography was suddenly it was hidden. You had to get the you had to rent a little film and put it up in the back room somewhere with your fraternity brothers, to being suddenly in theaters allowed, as the Supreme Court allowed pornography. So suddenly sprang up all across lower New York, in Times Square district, in these porn theaters. And then there was a sudden porno chic for a little bit with like Beyond the Green Door and Deep Throat and all these other movies. And so for Travis Bickle, who comes into New York unaware of this, it's like he was there in that window when even some dates and stuff were going to porn shows together. And so he's clueless to the fact that it's, that unless you know the person, you don't take them to pornography. But so it only really works at that time frame. And I guess the whole movie is almost like a time capsule, because New York is not that sleazy anymore, especially Times Square. All those problems back then, was a period of its time. But that one particularly, it's like it works for that time period, but that's the one I think people get caught up like, oh, that would never happen. I go, I think at that time, a guy that this clueless with people might make that decision.
And also, as we were discussing earlier, he has just gotten back from Vietnam, and he probably did a couple, 2-3 tours over there. He tells you at the beginning that he's just 26 years old. And so he's probably left, when he's 18, 19 years old. And he's been back for, it seems like a year, maybe 2 years, but he's isolated himself. And it seems like he just doesn't know what exactly is acceptable, socially hip for the era, for his own social class, his own social age group. It doesn't seem like he knows what's in and what's not.
Oh no, he is a isolated individual. He is. I mean, I love the way the movie gives hints and stuff. It doesn't come out and say it. I guess the original script was more explicit and stuff, but you can tell he is racist. He's uncomfortable with black people. I think there's Quentin Tarantino made a comment when she found that unbelievable because he had served in Vietnam. But I'm like, he served in the Marines, which it had the least amount of African Americans enlisted compared to the Army. So his interactions would have been less there. And there's a lot of people came out of even the Marine Corps and stuff that were still hardcore racists and alienated people, even in Vietnam. So I'm just not sure where Quentin Tarantino got that idea that wouldn't work. But he is he's a person that he looks. And Eugene Robinson loves this on the show because it does. He looks at black characters walking by. You can tell he has resentment towards them because he looks at them being like they're comfortable dealing with women. He looks and he watches the kids dance on American Bandstand and he feels he's separated from them. He is someone that does not know how to interact with people. And I think one of the opening lines in the script you ever read it, he is. Or the way they shoot it when he's walking through the crowds, basically everybody's going one way and he's going the other way. He does not move the way everybody else moves. Does not go with the crowd. He's alienated from everybody.
Another telltale sign too is when Betsy is asking him about a Chris Christopherson song and he's like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "Don't you listen to music?" Well, not really. What 26-year-old didn't listen to music back then? Music was a big thing. Disco was in its heyday, and he's living in New York.
Well, disco was starting to spring up. Remember, this was, I think, takes place in the earlier 70s and came out in 76. So disco hadn't quite sprung up yet. But yeah, Chris Christopherson should have been known. He is just, again, he's just a clueless individual. And his understanding of women are divided. I mean, obviously he has the Madonna horror complex, but with Betsy. But he also has a different thing. I thought once Paul Schrader described this, and I thought it summed it up because he wrote the goddamn script. He knows the character is that he can only be attracted to women he can't have. And for Betsy, she is beyond him. She's of a standard, this beautiful blonde of a standard that he will blow it with eventually, which he does pretty quickly. So he'll never have her. And with Iris, played by Jodie Foster, is that he turns her into this pure young thing that he has to save. So he can never have her either. And so he is someone that, again, incel, he is self-defeating on the women he tries to have relationships with. So it's pretty goddamn amazing film, if you ask me.
I'll tell you who really grossed me out more than
I know where you're going with this right now.
Oh, Matt Sport. Harvey Keitel's character. There's this scene where Jodie Foster is lamenting that he doesn't pay attention to her anymore, and he's her pimp. But I guess that's how pimps work, is that they snare you into a relationship and then they turn you out. And that's clearly what he's done with Jodie Foster's character, whose name is Iris. And oh my God, he pulls her to him and he's hugging her really tight and he's whispering to her and he's telling her all these sweet nothings, and it is the most revolting. It made my skin crawl how just awful this guy is. I mean, I could not wait for him to bite a bullet. I couldn't. I just wanted him wiped off the face of the earth. I was Travis Bickle in that moment when I had to listen to him smooth talk her and sweet talk this little girl who is 12 and a half.
Yeah. I mean, that's the disturbing part. I've been in theaters. The audience really got excited when that shoot, the finale. I hope I'm not giving it away. I hope everybody's seen the movie already. If you haven't, skip ahead. But the thing is that if you watch the movie, he at one point he plans to kill Palantine, the senator. The presidential candidate. Yeah. And he, if he accomplished that, he'd go down history as a villain. But because he fails that, his backup plan is to go save Iris. He thinks she's out of town, is to go kill the people that he blames, that he holds his grudge against for turning Iris out. when I was there, when he walked in and started shooting, when he shot Sport and started shooting these people, audience is going nuts. But you're thinking at the same time, like, well, if he had done this to the senator, would you have been cheering as much? Probably not. It's just that we're lucking out that he lucked out to get the right opponents at that time. But yeah, the Sport is particularly disgusting because, he's trafficking underage girls, and he has I'm sure you remember the whole little speech when he tells all the stuff that Travis can do to her.
Yes,
for a few
my
bucks.
God. I mean, just don't be too rough with her. Oh my God.
Yeah,
After he lists literally every single sexual act that you can do between a man and a woman, and I am talking every single thing, but just don't rough her up. Oh my God. It was just revolting. He is the most slimy, disgusting character. Oh my God.
Yeah, he was. There was a search when he got the role because originally the character was written black, and Harvey Keitel was doing a search trying to find a white pimp. Apparently, he finally found one that. And there's actually a story in Los Angeles, a similar thing, of a white pimp that became the basis for the movie Hardcore, because they found that the white guys that got the very few that got into pimping that were white were generally more degenerate, more brutal than the black guys, because they sought out the life so bad just to do that. So that's another movie worth seeing, Hardcore, but it's a little more drive-in theaterish than Taxi Driver. But
and then you get the aftermath of the shootout. And that is, for starters, when you're watching it, you're thinking that he's dying because he gets shot in the neck. Again, listen, if you haven't seen it, that's too goddamn bad. We're telling you right off the bat what we're talking about. And if you haven't either skipped forward or decided that you're okay with spoilers, sorry about that, but this is on you. But he gets shot in the neck. And when he sort of sinks into that couch after he shot up everybody and the police come in, and he's holding his neck, his bleeding neck at first, and then he lets go and he makes his fingers into a pistol and he puts them to his temple and he goes, poof, and then he does it one more time. Poof. I seriously thought he died right there.
Yeah, well, there are some theories about that. And I think we talked about that. Mm-hmm. The various theories about the end of the movie, because there's many ways to interpret it. And that's, again, some people have some complaints about the end. But what seemed ridiculous in the past has been proven true, because there's one way to read the whole thing, the whole ending, where after we have a God's eye view. So you assume he's dead because it's almost like his spirit leaving the room, this God's eye view of the carnage, and it goes over everything. Yeah. And then we come up on some newspaper clippings, and it's Iris's parents thanking him for saving his parents. And there's newspaper clippings. That's the letter actually being read. And there's newspaper clippings that he's a hero, taxi driver. And so it's like, wow, that seems almost, a lot of people I know find that absurd, but I find that less absurd after Kyle Rittenhouse, because after Kyle Rittenhouse shot some people in a protest, now you can say he was in the right or whatever, but he was just hailed as a hero by a lot of people. And it's one thing to be saying, well, that was an unfortunate situation. It's another thing to praise the guy as this grand hero for executing these people to protest. And I think it kind of demonstrates that what happened to Travis Bickle in that movie seems very plausible. That's the reaction a lot of the public would have been, is to rally behind this guy.
Why Kyle Rittenhouse was hailed as a hero, because both of the people that he shot and killed were felons, and one of them was a pedo felon. If they had, but he didn't know that going in. He just went out there to kill some protesters. And had they not been felons, had they been innocent people in the eyes of the law, as well as innocents walking the streets, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination he had a right to shoot those people, because he did not. But I feel like had they not had criminal histories, maybe he wouldn't have been so quickly viewed as a hero.
Well, I mean, it kind of lines up exactly with Taxi Driver, because on one hand, Travis Bickle was going to go kill a senator, and he would have been declared a villain. But because that failed, and he went and shot a bunch of mobsters, and that the guy, one of the victims, was a mobster. You know, that's the reveal later, and that he killed the pimp and all that. That he gets to be declared a hero. So, you know, I mean, that's why I think it's it ends up being like, at the time, you might have seen it the first time I saw that movie, some people would complain like, that doesn't seem realistic. But after the release of that movie, after Getz, if you remember the subway shooter, after Rittenhouse, you realize that the public will praise people if they view that they're on their side. And so you have this reveal that now he's a hero. And he meets up with Betsy again, and now Betsy is attracted to him apparently again, and you know, talks to him, and he leaves her behind on the curb and drives off. And then there's some strange view in his rear view mirror for a second. And so you watch that, and some people see that scenario and said that's what happened. He survived the shooting. He got declared a hero. He met up with Betsy, and she revealed that she was now viewed him as a hero and viewed him as worthwhile, and that's all he needed. And he left her behind, and that yet he saw something in that mirror. And I'll get that in a second. That's one way to read it. Another way to read it is, yes, he survived the shooting, but Betsy maybe got in the car with him, but that conversation never happened. That was an imaginary conversation he put together because he needed that. Mm-hmm. And then the third way to read it is it's an occurrence at All Creek, the story by Ambrose Bierce, where he actually dies in that shooting, and this is his last kind of fantasy he creates for himself
as he's dying
that he will be memorized as a hero, and that Betsy will come back. So I think all three interpretations work. The interesting part too is that final rear mirror thing, because if he's dead, the mirror could represent that he views that, holy shit, I'm dead. This is the end is really here. Or if it's not a death sequence in fantasy, then looking in the mirror is him realizing, whatever demons he have are still there. He has not exercised these demons. At this temporary moment where he's a hero and seems sane, it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, I still have work to do to clean up all this urban decay. Because there's also a scene in the movie where that senator, that is the presidential candidate, actually gets in his cab with one of his campaign managers, and he has a conversation with Travis Bickle, and Travis tells him, I don't really have political views. I don't keep up with politics. And the president says, well, if you could change anything, what would it be? And after a little prodding, Travis talks about cleaning up the streets and basically how fucked up everything is and how he would like to wipe a lot of it out, like kill a lot of people. And that is super telling, because in the end, when Betsy gets in the car, the conversation they have basically is, he says, I saw that Palantine, that's the name of the senator, I saw that Palantine won the race. And basically, she says he's 12 points ahead or something like that. And it's just a matter of time now. And he's definitely going to win and be the president, because I guess he got whatever nod, Democratic or Republican, whatever it was. But the point there is that he sees himself now as keeping up. I don't know if that's actually John makes a really good point that maybe that conversation didn't happen, but inside that conversation, whether it happened or whether it was in his head, he's keeping up, or at least he's viewing himself as keeping up.
Yeah, I think he's more in touch with people. I think that's the thing. Is he really more in touch? Is he putting on the act? Is he more in touch? I mean, that's the part that has to be a question. The key dialogue in the whole movie, in many ways, kind of the pivot in the movie is another conversation he has with someone in the backseat. So when Martin Scorsese does his cameo, which he originally wasn't cast in. There was supposed to be another guy who couldn't show up and do it, and so they threw Martin in the scene. And he gives this really disturbing conversation about how he's going to kill his wife with a 44 in a particular place, and because she's having an affair with him. But as they do it, what makes that key is it's taking place in the real world, but that I think also represents as he looks in the rearview mirror, that represents Travis Bickle's inner thoughts becoming reality. That this guy's kind of whispering what he wants to do over into his ear from the back seat.
Remember, she is having an affair with a black man. That's
exactly.
also the key here too, to Travis Bickle's inner racism.
Yep, he has just his sexual frustration and stuff. And from that moment on, that's the part after that conversation. That's when he gets the guns. That's when he goes see the character from a great movie called a documentary they made about the guy, American Boy. Which, if you haven't seen that, I'd watch that. The guy that sells the guns, Martin Scorsese made a little documentary about him. And there's a story. And do you see that documentary ever?
No. I was just going to note that it's crazy when he goes to get one gun and he buys the entire spread.
Yes. Yeah, he's up to something when he gets everything. But there's in the documentary American Boy, the character gives the subject of it gives a great story about using an adrenaline a syringe plunge to wake someone up that had a heroin overdose, and then you realize that's Tarantino took that whole sequence and put it into Pulp Fiction. So he's an amazing figure who basically playing himself in the movie, selling guns to Bickle. But after that Scorsese conversation, it's the whole tone of the movie changes. It's like he went from being this lonely loser, frustrated, to now he has a purpose, and that purpose is not good.
He turned from a lonely loser to the fucking Dark Knight.
Yeah, but a dark night.
Oh yeah, I mean we're talking killer Dark Knight, but I mean that I know, you know what? There's like a Batman parallel there with the Dark Knight, the way that. Wow. I don't even know why I said that, but it makes sense to me. But anyways, he did.
Well, the Dark Knight, you ever see the comic book Year One? They outright rip off panels from Taxi Driver for Year One.
Yeah. So I'm justified in saying that then. But yeah, he turns into something so dark. My God. I mean, it's really dark, but there's the one ray of light in it, no matter how fucking twisted it is how he wants to help Iris. Like, she offers herself to him multiple times, like 4 or 5 times in the span of a conversation. Like, she's trying to undo his pants. She's trying to take off his shirt. And he keeps telling her, no, I don't want that. Stop. He sees himself as something higher. He sees himself as a knight in shining armor. So here he's the white knight. But when he goes out to take care of business, he's something so much darker.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell, like I said, there's 2 types of women. He goes for those that are beyond him, that he'll never have success with, which is Betsy. Again, it's also, there's that parallel of the Madonna and the whore thing, but Betsy's beyond him, but then he turns on Betsy. You're just like the rest of them. Basically, he's now put her in the whore class, so he doesn't want her anymore. And then Iris, who is a prostitute, but he puts her in this, this virginal young girl that he has to rescue, so he cannot have her as well. And thank God, because she's under fucking age.
I don't think he wanted her, though.
No, I know I think that's the point, though. He needs to feel heroic towards a woman, to do something for her, and she is pure and innocent, and even though that's not 100% true, but he says that constantly, how pure and innocent she is and stuff, how sweet Iris and all that. So he is that's the only interaction he can have with women, were those 2 types, which again really foreshadowed the incel movement. So it's pretty amazing how much they capture the psychology of these people well before we ever came up with the term for them.
Yeah, there's only one last thing I wanted to note, and it's a mystery to both John and I. We talked about this as well, is he notes in the end, he's writing a letter to his parents, and he's telling them how, well, it's not at the end, it's sort of close to the end, but not quite at the end. I'd say the last quarter of the movie. He's writing a letter to his parents, and he's lying. He's telling them that he's dating a girl named Betsy, blah, blah, blah. He's doing really well. But he notes in there that he can't yet give them his address. And I just want to know why he never gave them his address. Why couldn't he give them his address? Even before he became this person, before he devolved into full-on mania, he was withholding his address from his parents.
Well, I spend a lot of time talking. I spent an inordinate amount of time talking to my brother about this movie, and that's one of those things that I came up at some point. And the theories you have, one is that he had some sort of falling out with his parents, and he, didn't want to share information with them, and now he's sending them this letter. To basically touch base, so that because he knows he's going to die, he's already planning the death.
It was their anniversary card that he's filling out the whole inside of it with.
Yeah, but the theory we think that most likely why he didn't share his current address, why he didn't want him to know, and he made up this story, is he didn't want the chance that they would come and check on him, or anybody would be sent to check on him and stop his plot.
But this was before his plot, though.
No, he was already at this time when he wrote his parents.
But he had said that I still can't share. It's like this has been going on since he got back from Vietnam, that he hadn't shared his address with them at all. I still can't tell you where I live. That's what he says. I still can't.
Like I said, there's two ways to think about it. One, as we said earlier, is he had a falling out with them, and he just he had some separation. And the other, at the time, I'm not 100% certain, actually. There is probably a reasoning. I'm sure if I ever, if I bump into, I've met Paul Schrader a couple times in Hollywood, so maybe if I ever bump into him, I'll bring that up. I'm sure he's sick of people asking about the fucking movie, but I will bring it up hopefully before he passes away and get an answer on that one in particular. But my interpretation always was that, he just was not close to his family at all. And now he's sending him that he did not want to give anyone a hint of where he was at, just in case the off chance that someone would stop him, because he was already working on his plot.
Well, in any event, it was a real eye-opener watching it. Like, I was riveted too. Most of the time when I'm watching movies, like my husband was at work last night, so I watched it alone. And when I watch movies alone, I'll typically watch them at my desk on my desktop, because I have an enormous monitor, so I can watch pretty much like it's a television. So I watched it there so that, if I got in bed and watched it, I probably would have nodded off. But if I sit here and watch, I'm good to go. But I was riveted from beginning to end. I didn't pull up my little solitaire deck or anything. I didn't remember it being like that.
Yeah, to me, it's a movie. It's visual poetry. I think, that's which sounds absurd in some ways, but I think it is. It really is this almost poem, and obviously it has so many bizarre, intense intellectual influences. That Schrader was into film noir, and you could have this whole argument how it's the last of the film noirs, and there's also the fact that it had, the Notes from the Underground by Dostoevsky obviously influenced it. So all that, but I am mesmerized by it, and I remember showing it to my dad just months before he passed away. And this was at a time we were watching, like, what's that, the movies where the dogs and the cats, the Great Journey Across America. That's the movies he wanted to watch. That was his speed at the time, and he fell asleep during every movie, but all he wanted was happy animals. And I was going to watch Taxi Driver, and he stayed up to watch it with me. And he had seen it decades ago, but the only movie I remember in the last year of his life where he did not fall asleep. He watched the whole thing, and he was paying attention, and he was aware of it. And I quizzed him on it, and he knew. And I'm like, okay, there's a power to this movie.
Yes.
I don't know what it is, but it definitely has a power. And it's a movie that, it's unlike other movies, because other movies have tried to imitate it since then. Nightcrawler, obviously, The Joker, but it's a movie that it's a movie almost like a book, where it's about a main character trying to delve into their actions and mind in a way that I don't think most cinema does.
Yeah, for sure. And one last thing though, listen, all of the slides for all those guns, those hidden guns, okay, I gotta admit that was pretty gnarly.
Yes.
I loved all of his craftsmanship with his hidden gun slides. Those things, and they saved his ass too.
Yeah. He's that's a part I think it takes a lot of people by surprise when he builds. It is entertaining when he builds. He takes this whole arsenal he puts together, and he ends up using all of it at the end.
Yeah. But the most famous scene that everyone knows. Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? You must be talking to me because nobody else is around. that was pretty impactful too when I watched it in full with the rest of the movie and not just some meme clip.
Yeah, it's I mean, again, the whole movie, there's huge sections I can quote from. And if you've ever watched If the Shoes Fit with Alexi and Eugene, me and Eugene, before that we ever go on, often are riffing on like Taxi Driver and stuff. It's a common language between us on the show. So I hope, I'm sure we bored the shit out of most of our listeners, but I am thankful for you, Stephanie, that you let me indulge in my Taxi Driver
Hey, I had a good time talking about it. Like,
yeah.
I messaged him really late last night. Guess what I'm watching? I'm watching Taxi Driver right now. And so I had full intent and plans to discuss this with you. I know you're a big fan. I mean, you told me you watch it every single year. And this has been yesterday was the 50th anniversary. I would say that rates some conversation.
Yeah, it's got 50-year-old, but that was you could say 74, 75, 76 might be the greatest period. If you just look at the movies that were nominated, the movies that came out, that might be, I think it's unquestionably the greatest period of Hollywood filmmaking.
There's a lot of good stuff. We need to try out a couple Al Pacino movies. I love Serpico and I love Dog Day Afternoon. We need to do those.
I loved Dog Day Afternoon is one of my all-time favorites.
Mine too. I really like that one. So.
I have not seen it quite as many times here, but I have seen that maybe every second or third year. So I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, we need to do that one next. We need to have like a movie a month. I
don't know if there's a lot of listeners out there that are interested in us to banter about the movies. This might be a one-time thing.
They can deal with it because they get all the good stuff after.
Yes.
So, all right. Next movie's going to be Dog Day Afternoon in about a month. All right. From here, we are going to discuss business. So, cinephiles, sorry, gotta get down to what we do best here. John, are there any new filings or updates to the UFC antitrust cases?
Yeah, there's been several. But I mean, nothing huge. One thing that hasn't been filed, when I was there on Thursday, the judge basically said, hey, can someone just take a photo of the corner, the cabinets where you keep all these phones that apparently are getting robbed and missing and we don't know who belongs to. And I have not heard yet. I thought it was supposed to take place Friday, but maybe they're waiting till Wednesday. But I haven't seen a filing that shows a photo of the corner or whatever where they're holding these phones. So we haven't seen that yet. So that hasn't been filed. We did get a filing. Looks like they're going to ask for an extension for discovery material with Iridium. So I haven't gone through it fully, but it looks like maybe Iridium is complying with the discovery. In that case, there's been a new attorney that's asked to be assigned to the defendants. I don't know if that's a sign things are going bad or not. But no major filings. I guess we will wait and see. Wednesday is another court hearing day in the courtroom where he's going to question the attorneys about what's going on with discovery, the spoliation situation. And so, that day or Thursday, we should have more answers and of where the judge perhaps is going. But a lot of little stuff going on, but nothing really important. We are waiting, I think, more so to see what happens Wednesday, the Wednesday hearing. And then after that, waiting to see, I guess what day he started and what day ends that 30-day period he's going to give them to produce the discovery that's missing, which doesn't seem like me that they will be able to recover it.
All right. So we'll have to keep track of that until next week. So now that we have Floyd Mayweather's lawsuit available to look at, what are your initial thoughts after you have, fully perused it?
Yeah, I got it in Vegas, but I didn't get a chance to read it because I was in the court. They ban electronic stuff. I will post it though in the Substack, so people want to look at it. If they haven't seen it yet, it will be in the Substack. Looking it over, it's a lawsuit. I can say that much. Filed in the Superior Court of California, and what the case does, it details what it claims is a massive financial fraud that Mayweather claims against Showtime Networks, Inc. And former sports president Stephen Espinoza. And Mayweather alleges in it that the defendants participated in a long-running scheme, which he claims was orchestrated by his former manager and advisor, Haymon. who is not named as a defendant in that complaint. He claims that he misappropriated hundreds of millions of dollars of his career earnings. The core allegation is a fiduciary betrayal. The lawsuit centers on the claim that Haymon, who I think Mayweather called a father figure in it, he breached his fiduciary duties by systematically diverting Mayweather's money into hidden accounts and within various unauthorized like wire transactions. So he claims there's a bunch of missing money, claims there's shadow accounts, claims that there was self-dealing with the bank records showing tens of millions of dollars being transferred to Al Haymon Developments and other stuff under guise of loan repayments. He claimed that there was intentional concealment, that Haymon operated in the Flintstone ages, I believe he quotes it as, that he didn't use computers or emails and everything was done like by fax or by letter or, by personal dealings. So there's no paper trail. And that he claims that Showtime and Espinoza allegedly were complicit in this, that they didn't just stand by. They provided substantial assistance in facilitating the transfers and stonewalling and lost records. I think he claims that Showtime told him or claimed to his attorneys that they lost records in a flood, and that there was a conflict of interest with Steven Espinoza because after his run with Showtime, he left to join PBC. And so they're claiming that Mayweather is pursuing several legal theories against Showtime. He's claiming that there was an aiding and abetting breach of fiduciary duty where they assisted Haymon in violating his trust. He claims there was a civil conspiracy to commit fraud where Showtime and Espinoza were working in concert with Haymon to misappropriate his earnings. He's claiming there's conversion where there's exercising wrongful control over Mayweather's personal property, i.e. his money. And he's claiming unjust enrichment where they retain the benefits and profits of his money that should have gone to him. And so Mayweather is seeking compensatory damages in excess of $340 million, punitive damages in addition to that for the willful, malicious, and fraudulent behavior, and equitable relief. So that's a rundown of the case. Now, we're probably going to go a little more detail here because there's a lot of little tidbits in the case I found interesting.
One thing that I would like to know, I saw you discussing this with someone else, and I feel like our listeners would like to know as well. Why was it filed in California?
Well, this might answer some of your later questions, but I will answer it. I don't know why it was filed in California. What they claim in the suit is they claim that it makes sense to file this in California because Showtime has offices in California. They're based in New York, but they have offices in California. They do business in California. And Steven Espinoza lives in California. Which I have questions about that last part. I have questions about all that. But because I am not certain that he filed against the Showtime Network Inc. is who he filed against. I am not certain that is the business, the entity that Mayweather did business with. And so are they based in California? And I'm pretty damn sure, because remember we had Espinoza about a year ago on our show. Mm-hmm. In an interview, and Espinoza was living in New York at the time.
Yeah.
And he had been living in New York for a while. And so that's the claim in the suit, but I'm not certain it's the right place to file because Mayweather lives in Vegas. All the fights took place in Vegas. Showtime is based in New York primarily, and Espinoza is in New York. So some questions on that.
Yeah. Is there a reason? Well, first of all, does the complaint say how much he made in his career and how much is unaccountable?
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. I know a lot of people are like, Mayweather's broke. Mayweather's broke because they stole all his money. And Mayweather might be broke. There's a story floating around right now that he owes several bills, that he's being sued for unpaid rent in an apartment. He's being sued for jewelry. He's just being sued for a bunch of stuff that he apparently didn't pay the bills on. Which is, I think we talked about it a while ago, but we could really break down because this is absurd that he has no money because Mayweather claims that he has $340 million of his career earnings is missing and unaccounted for. That when you do forensics on his what he should have got paid, he should have got $1.2 billion. Well, if $340 million are missing, that still means you made, if you do the math, $860 million. Now, I don't know about you, but $860 million even, let's say the allegations are true and he did get ripped off. $860 million is still a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
That's just me. That is a ton of money. And so you would think, I mean, maybe I'm mistaken on this, but you would think you'd have some money left over. You think you would not be having these financial problems. But he apparently has the spending habits of I don't know, of
a 5-year-old.
Basically, what it seems like, and this is going from other stories, it's not in this complaint at all, his spending habits, but in other stories you look at and other accounts I've heard from other people, he apparently has 2 private jets with 3 crews, not 2 crews, not 1 crew per jet, 3 of them, because he flies so much. And aviation rules is you can only fly a certain amount of time. Well, that right there is, millions upon millions of dollars per year to upkeep and travel, the jet fuel, the storage, the crews. So right there's a lot of money. His money he made, it sounds like he invested it in houses. That's fine. He put his money into property, but he put them into like 15 mansions. And so when you need money, this is not like, and he's not renting those houses. This isn't like building, investing into rental properties where you have income then coming. He put his money into houses, great, but you can't flip those. How many people are buying $20 million mansions? Yeah. It's not an instant transaction where you get your money back out. So he has to upkeep that, which costs money. He can't liquidate it. So it sounds like he went and got loans to cover some of his expenses, loans at high interest rates. So every step of the way, it just reads of someone that's just making tremendous mistakes and whittling away huge amounts of money without concern of preserving any of it. So
did you see that story about his daughter?
No.
The oldest daughter, the one that, she's a very attractive young lady. She wanted to meet NBA Youngboy, who is some famous rapper. Anyways, she paid $1.2 million. She said this in an interview too. So this came directly from her mouth that she paid $1.2 million to go and meet NBA Youngboy and hang out with him. So that money didn't come from her.
Yeah, that's there's other examples. Supposedly he threw a ton of money around. It's sad in some ways, but one is I think he's just not a person that understands money, and it's when you make that kind of money, he thought it was endless and infinite, and it's not. So now at the end of it, but even then, it's like that's the part it goes. It's again, I don't know. We don't know all the information. Maybe some of the allegations are true. Who knows? But you would think, if you still earned, even after being ripped off, which he claims up to $340 million, you would think that having earned $860 million, even after tax and everything, you would have some money left over. You would be able to survive on that. And it looks like he is just burning through that. So,
Oh, so you know what? She came out and denied the rumors that she paid it. So there's that. There's several stories saying that she said it because he ended up becoming the father of her child.
Oh, okay. See, I don't follow all the stories of Mayweather, so that one we should rescind. Maybe he didn't spend that money, but I should note too that of this case, the $340 million, it sounds like the allegations against Showtime are that the part that Showtime played is they had $50 million in fraudulent expenses. So we'd have to go through the fights he had to find out, how fraudulent those expenses really were. And then there's some question about this fight for that one of his fights that they took $20 million from the Pacquiao fund supposedly and applied it to another fight, the Berto fight. So the complaint really is $70 million of the $340 million is directed to Showtime, but the whole complaint is against Showtime and Espinoza.
Wow. All right. So anyways, there's several stories that say she did pay him because they were on the outs. So she paid him $1.2 million to hang out with him for a week. And then after she said that, supposedly she ran it back. So take from that what you will, but still, that's a lot of money to throw around if true. Okay. Is there a reason why they're suing Showtime and Espinoza, but not Al Haymon?
Yeah, this is the kind of interesting. There's some questions that this raises because one is the allegations are basically against Haymon. Haymon had the fiduciary responsibility as the manager. Haymon is the one that it accuses of basically engaging in some sort of fraud against him, billing him for extra additional charges for, taking loans out against him, things like that. And so you're wondering, well, why are you suing Espinoza and Showtime and not Haymon? And well, one is, and this is why I think it's filed in California, because every state's different. But in California, there are a couple laws that are to the benefit of a suit like this. One is that a non-fiduciary can be held for a fiduciary's wrongdoing through the tort of aiding and abetting breach of fiduciary duty, which was one of the allegations here. And the legal theory.
To access the bonus content of this episode, you must be a paid subscriber. To do that, go to heynottheface.substack.com and subscribe today.
Ow! Ow! Not the face! Ooh! Ooh! Okay, the face!